Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to December's Spirits Home Gathering. It's so good to see you all. It's wonderful to see you all, truly. And I don't know what it's doing where you are, but we are getting winter here in Cleveland, Ohio. A nice, healthy dose of winter. And we are going to open with a song. Oops. There we go. Yeah, so I would like to share that I had wanted something for today, and I couldn't find it in the music that I had, and so I kind of sat at the piano and said, "Okay, Spirit, do your thing," and this is what came through. So just so you know, there's a starfish theme, and then we will be talking about that in a bit. Here is the song. Reach for the light, reach for the hope, reach for the hand that is offering help. Do all the good you can, even when you think it's not enough. Doing the best you can, even when it feels too tough. This is how we grow up. This is how we show up. Reach for the light. Reach for the hope. Reach for the hand that is offering help. Do all the good you can, even when you think it's not enough. Doing the best you can, even when it feels too tough. This is how we grow up. This is how we show up. Reach for the light.
Taking a breath together to just be here now, knowing that this service is filled with the divine, the love, and the light that each of us are. That today's message is perfect and exactly what we need to hear. That the technology is blessed. That in each and every space that we are, Spirit is. And I am so grateful for this gathering of people of love that we can build up together to send out into the world. I simply release this to the law that says yes. And so it is. Amen and Ashe.
Yes.
Sacred readings for today from Rabbi Irving Greenberg. The proper response, as Hanukkah teaches, is not to curse the darkness, but to light a candle. And from Albert Camus, he said, "In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better. pushing right back.
Thank you, Anne, Reverend Anne. Whew. Yeah. So one day a man was walking down the beach, and up ahead of him he saw this boy, and he was running back and forth from the beach to the water's edge, beach to the water's edge, back and forth. And the guy was confused, so he kept getting closer, and as he got closer, he could see that the tide had washed thousands of starfish up onto the shore. And this boy was picking up one starfish and running it down to the edge of the water and throwing it in, and then running back and picking up one starfish and running down and throwing it in the water. One starfish, one at a time. And the man approached the boy and he said, "What are you doing?" And the boy replied, "The starfish cannot live if they are left out in the sun." And the man responded, "But there must be countless starfish. You can't possibly rescue them all." And the boy, holding the starfish in his hand, said, "Yes, but I can rescue this one." The man leaned over, picked up a starfish, and joined the boy, taking them down to the water's edge. When it comes to relationships, to connections, the connections we create with one another, and to the moments in our lives when we need it most, we are helped, we are rescued, more often by the one-at-a-time experiences compared with the epic ones. Even during a natural disaster, it's the individual members of the Red Cross or World Central Kitchen or our neighbors that makes the biggest impact. For me, when I was in one of the darkest times of my life, I was inadvertently helped by a young woman. She made a devastating choice that impacted my life in a profound and permanent way. The truth of her story is that, in a way, she made it possible for me to be here today to talk about her. And I'm talking about her today because tomorrow, on the 15th of December, it marks 38 years since she left this life experience. In my book, I call her Claire, which is not her real name. And still, even after all this time, I don't know why I feel the need to protect her. So we will call her Claire. Claire and I met in 1987 when we were both residents of the NYU Medical Center Psych Unit, 10 West, in New York City. I'd already been there a few weeks before she arrived. My choice to go into the hospital was a bit terrifying, and it was also a huge relief. I felt like I was drowning in my life, with only a few buoys to hold on to. I was becoming a risk to my own safety. So I went in. And immediately, I debuted a new performance piece called The Rachel is the Model Patient Role. If you were here or you watched the October talk, you'll understand more deeply the meaning of when I explained that a few short weeks into the unit, I had managed to fool all the doctors and all the psychiatrists treating me into believing that I was totally fine. I was not, of course. I went in depressed, dark, hopeless, and in danger of harming myself. And 3 weeks later, I had become the ambassador of the unit. I welcomed new patients as well as their visitors. I took care of people. I smiled and was amenable. I was the model patient. And they were preparing to release me, thinking that all I needed was just a little boost to get me through. The nurses knew differently. They were the frontline care providers, and they saw right through my mask. However, sadly, They weren't given as much credit or respect as they deserved for their wisdom and skill. Claire arrived and was immediately fascinating to me because she didn't speak. I won't go into all the details of our story here because it's all in my book, and I really do try not to repeat myself too much. What I will say is this: I immediately felt an admiration for Claire. There was something enviable in the way that she chose not to talk at all. As a constant talker, since I first began speaking as a child, I wished I could be more like her. One night she did speak to me. Again, the full story is in my book, and I would love for you to read it there. It was a thrill because she chose the moment when we were alone together to actually say something. It was only about 6 words. Still, she said them to me. It was later that evening that, after taking a phone call that she was not supposed to accept, Claire walked past me in her nightgown, took the elevator to the roof, and walked off of it, landing on the East Side Highway of New York City. Claire and I were the same age. We were both 24. We were the 2 youngest residents on the unit. And she had just done something that I, in my skewed perspective, did not have the guts to do. This was my first reaction. How brave she was. How jealous I was of her courage. Within hours of Claire's choice, things started to spin out of control for me. The psychiatrists and doctors, once again ignoring the pleas and recommendations from the nurses who knew what I needed, made decisions that led to a chain of events that ironically did in fact cause my accidental death for just a few moments until I was revived. They badly botched the moment that could have changed everything for me. And in doing so, without intending to, they did, in fact, change everything for me. After a few medical blunders, which again I barely survived, I was given a choice by the medical staff. Leave New York City or be locked into Bellevue's permanent resident facility. To be honest, at the time, the latter didn't sound so bad. I would have no responsibilities, no rent to pay, no laundry to do, no job to find, and of course, there would be pudding, which was the high point of hospitalization for me. I really loved pudding. And then I heard from a shy, tiny, frightened part of me that said, yeah, all of that's true, and there would also be no friends, no freedom, choices, no possibility. It began to dawn on me that this choice, after some time had passed and folks moved on with their lives, this choice would leave me completely forgotten and alone. So broken and forever altered by my experience, I accepted the offer to leave New York City. And I moved to the beautiful Hudson, New York, thanks to some generous friends. And it wasn't easy. However, I started to ask for guidance. And as I asked for it, it started showing up. I actually became the starfish for an amazing chiropractor in Philmont, New York. And miraculously, just a handful of years later, and a whole other long story, While I was on tour with a theater company, I was in a motel in Jacksonville, Florida. The reason I bring this up is because that night I rescued a woman who was perched on a railing over the parking lot, preparing to jump to her death. Before I even thought about it or realized what I was doing, I saved her life. I couldn't save Claire. I did save this woman. And that was when I began to realize the gift that Claire left me, her legacy. I was the starfish, and I had become the little boy saving them. It became clear, and maybe even more clearer to me, that my life was filled with struggle. And also, it was filled with possibility, as long as I stayed here to experience it. Last month, we heard from Viktor Frankl, and I'm returning to him today because of his profound understanding of the nature of struggle and the power of possibility. He wrote, "I made a choice. If I couldn't change my fate, I would change my attitude toward it." One freezing night, I imagined myself giving a lecture at a university, telling students about all I had endured. That vision became my lifeline. The idea that there could be purpose, even in pain, kept me alive. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about finding a reason to live. If you have a why, you will always find a how. There are things in life you can't control, but you can always control how you respond. And sometimes that response is what saves you. Because even in hell, the one who has purpose still has hope. Let's just take a breath. And let's talk a little bit more about hope. Tonight we begin the 7 sacred nights of Hanukkah. This holiday, like pretty much all Jewish holidays, centers around the theme of all together now, they tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat. It's funny, and it's true. By the way, if you've never had a genuinely homemade potato latke, I highly recommend that you run right out and do that. Your life will never be the same. But make sure it's on the crispy side and not on the greasy side. Now, aside from the food part, the other major theme of Hanukkah is, of course, the hope that lives in light. So there's an interesting thing I want to share with you that maybe some people know and some don't, is that the story of Hanukkah is not in the Hebrew Bible, also known as the Old Testament. It's part of what is called the Apocrypha. In a nutshell, it's the year 168 BCE. This time, the ones who wanted to kill us were the Syrians. They invaded, they destroyed the temple, they abolished Judaism, which, as a statement, I find baffling. They outlawed any Shabbat practices or observance of holy days. Jews were offered the option to convert or die, to worship the Greek gods or be killed. A small group of Jewish freedom fighters known as the Maccabees took on a battle of survival. It was brutal, as all battles are, and it ended with a whole lot of destruction. It also ended with an absolutely unpredictable victory for the Maccabees. When the fighting had finished, the survivors reclaimed the temple and began to clean up. The first thing that needed to be done was, of course, to relight the Ner Tamid, the eternal light that burns in every Jewish temple, representing God's ever-present watchful care over us. The problem was they only found a small container of oil that looked like it would just last for one day. So they sent someone out to go find more oil, and it took that person 8 days to return. Miraculously, the light remained burning all 8 days. That little jar of oil lasted 8 days. Hope, possibility, miracles. This is what Hanukkah is about. This is what our lives are about, especially in these current times. There's always going to be darkness. There's always going to be the concern that the oil won't last. There's always going to be moments when we think we can't see tomorrow. And please know this. There are always going to be moments when we can. It's way too easy to give in to the pessimism and the negativity that lures us downward. We don't have to, though. We can choose again and again and again to see the hope, the possibility, and the light that is ever present, even in the darkness. We're going to hear from another person I talked about last month, because there are people in my life that their wisdom is just ever present. I know I'm shown which way to go.